Welcome to this week's episode of Campbell and Jones Meet the Monsters, a podcast where we chart the cinematic legacy of the classic monsters. I'm John Campbell. With me, as always, Brendan Jones.
Oh, John Campbell. It's summertime in the city, and the back of my neck is getting dirty and gritty. But even with the heat, there's nothing more calming, soothing, than watching a Hammer horror film.
And Brendan, this is the season finale of season 2 of Campbell and Jones Meet the Monsters. That we're wrapping up Hammer. This is how Hammer goes out, at least for us.
I know. They only had 2 more films, like as a studio after this. But this is the last one we'll be covering.
Yeah.
And it is a sad way to go out.
Well, because it's an enjoyable way to go out. This I will say is one of the more entertaining films we've watched.
This is just fucking bonkers. This movie is literally batshit.
Well, because I will say this one, the pacing is pretty goddamn fast in this movie.
Yes, but that's also easy when you don't have a plot.
Well, because that's the thing. We are talking, of course, about the Legend of the 7 Golden Vampires.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is, this works so much better as a kung fu movie than as a monster movie.
Yes.
So much better. Because it's made by the Shaw brothers, who were kings of kung fu movies at this time. And the kung fu shit is good.
Well, it wasn't made by them.
It's a co-production.
It's a co-production.
Because like multiple times it says Hammer and Shaw brothers, which also makes it seem like there are Hammer brothers, because it's Hammer Shaw brothers,
Hammer brothers.
Yeah.
The thing with the Shaws, they were a huge force, and at this point, they're kind of at their peak, whereas Hammer's on their way down.
Yeah.
And as someone pointed out about this film when I was doing some reading, it did not benefit either one. It did not. This film didn't destroy Shaw Brothers. They kept going strong.
Oh, yeah.
But it also did not raise or help Hammer. So it kind of... It was a success, but it wasn't as big a success that they needed, that Hammer needed.
Yeah.
But it's a weird one. It's an outlier. They did 2 films together, and the 2 styles of what the Shaw brothers were known for and what Hammer was known for, really, it's an awkward fit.
It is, although I love the idea of a kung fu vampire movie.
Yes, no, I love the idea.
And I was thinking,
did
anybody ever do this right? And the only thing I can hit on is Blade is about as close to that as something that worked. The Wesley Snipes Blade movies, particularly the first 2, are Wesley Snipes doing kung fu shit fighting vampires.
Yeah, that's mainly in the action choreography. I actually wish that a more successful supernatural horror action film were made like this, where they're borrowing from Chinese mythology.
Right.
Where could you make that work? Because Blade is still... These are our typical vampires. It's just that Blade himself is a martial arts genius, and he's killing those motherfuckers.
And I love every goddamn second of it, man. I enjoyed immensely. I was a kid in the 90s obsessed with action movies, so Wesley Snipes was a big hero of mine as a kid.
I mean, to be honest, for the listeners who don't know this, in junior high, you demanded to be called the Daywalker.
I did, yeah. And I walked around in the long leather coat,
You also walked around during the day, and you said, proof positive!
Yeah. And I said, some motherfuckers always be trying to ice skate uphill.
Which is really startling to hear from a 6th grader.
Yeah.
But
I mean, that is one of the great lines in the history of cinema, I think.
It is.
Some motherfuckers always be trying to ice skate uphill. Because you go like, what?
Yeah.
I just wanted Deacon Frost to be like, what?
Actually, that would have been a good beat.
Hold on. Yeah,
have the villain go, what?
Yeah.
What did you just say?
Because not only does Blade kill your ass, he's going to perplex your mind first. Wait, what? And he slices his head off.
I'm sorry.
Hold on. Before we have this big sword fight, what?
Yeah. Did I hear you right about the ice skating?
That doesn't.
Let's go back.
I kind of follow what you're saying. Like, if you're like, oh, it sort of makes sense, but it's an expression no one has ever.
harder on themselves. Yeah, I get it.
Okay. Let's break this down. Like, it just turns into like 10 minutes of going, all right, we got to break it down. What is it? I skate uphill. But you don't skate down a hill anyway. You would skate on a flat surface, so.
Oh, my God.
We don't get any of Peter Cushing perplexing vampires in this movie, unfortunately.
No.
But oh, yeah. So do you have background on this? Because this is, oftentimes, though, the outliers are some of my favorites. Because it is just... It's different. There's so much of the same shit in these Hammer movies that when they do something different, it's very exciting to me.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. I like when people try to break out of their stagnant...
Though I will add the caveat of this one does feel desperate. It does feel like you were trying to jam two things together, like they're peanut butter and chocolate, but it's, it's not. It's...
Yeah, this doesn't work. I mean, we both enjoyed it, is what I think, but it doesn't work. It's
very fun, but at the end of the day, you sit there and go, what did I just watch?
What's hilarious is...
But throughout the movie, I was enjoying the hell out of it.
Yeah. In that book on Hammer films that I've been referring to quite a bit, they, of course, deal with this one, and Shatter, which was the other one that they did with Shaw Brothers.
I love Shatter.
Yeah,
Shatter is much more successful than this movie, I feel like.
And Shatter was the last Peter Cushing Hammer film.
Yeah, Shatter's cool, man. I have the Shout Factory Collector's Edition of Shatter.
Shatter fits better as far as them trying to blend.
It works much better. It's still, a cheap chopsaki movie of the 70s, but at least
that's an offensive term, John.
All right,
that's an offensive term.
I apologize to all.
But it is a chopsaki.
Yeah. I use it. I mean, it is a subgenre because I do feel like it paints a certain kind of kung fu movie. We're not talking about
kung fu fighting.
Yeah, we're not talking about and that is very much the case here. This is also the era when you're seeing James Bond, doing kung fu and stuff like that.
He went up against Bambi and Thumper, and they had some kung fu.
Oh, well, yeah, that's Diamonds Are Forever. But I'm thinking more Man with the Golden Gun when he goes to that kung fu school.
Yeah.
And you have Roger Moore, a man born to do martial arts.
This extremely tall British guy in a gi, and he looks so out of place.
Yeah, even Roger Moore, who I loved as an actor, but even he can't fully sell it that he's not just like, what the fuck am I doing here? I really don't understand.
I love Cushing in this one, swinging his big torch around.
Those are my favorite moments. Cushing,
he's very active.
Because I love when Cushing fights creatures of the undead, and him just burning these things, man. Oh, it just got me going.
Are you gonna be all right?
No,
you gonna be okay?
No, I was so aroused every time he was doing that. Yeah,
easy. Thank God people can't see what's happening on this cam.
Hey now,
come on.
Yeah.
I know you were doing a different person, but
I was doing a different actor from Arrested Development in a different show.
Jeffrey Tambor,
one of my maybe top 5 favorite TV characters. Hank Kingsley makes me laugh so much.
Hey now, Kingsley.
Hey now,
unbelievably funny.
When I was a kid, I used to say hey. Then when I got older, I started saying now. But it wasn't until I started working here that I thought to put them together. One of my all-time favorite TV shows. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, background on this movie.
In that book, they mention this film, of course. They talk a little bit about it. They are so quick. They want to get out of there so quick. They it was interesting. It didn't help things. Moving on. They spend most of that chapter talking about longtime Hammer music scorer guy. Because they realize they're about to run out of space in the book about Hammer. So in the chapter about this film, they mainly talk about the composer. And I'm like, wow, guys. So I looked elsewhere. I have not put together any kind of history, but I have some awesome quotes, which I want to throw your way, including one about Peter Cushing. Something that blew me away.
I thought you were just going to tell me the book just said Legend of Seven Golden Vampire. The only thing it says is what?
Kind of. It gives us a synopsis. Yeah, and then it's going, well, they were banking a lot on this this cross promotional thing, this co-production with Shaw Brothers. Didn't work out.
No.
But here is a quote. This I love, from a promotional article from April of 1974. The Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires is a new blockbuster horror film. A mysterious, Hitchcock-style, frightening film sure to be popular with audiences. Since Chinese fever, in quotes, has taken the world by storm, the subjects of Chinese culture, kung fu, and ghosts have been turned into a first-class motion picture never before seen in cinema history. British director Roy Ward Baker has skillfully synthesized the gloomy atmosphere of Eastern kung fu and Western horror.
No.
This unique production is not to be missed. I love how almost none of that.
No, literally none. I mean, I will say the movie maybe could have benefited from not having British director Roy Ward Baker doing it and letting a kung fu filmmaker do this. Yeah, although the kung fu scenes are good because clearly they had assistance.
Source of a lot of friction was that the Shaw Brothers fight choreographers like, let us shoot these scenes, and Roy Ward Baker's like, I've got it. I watched your movies.
Man. And the fight choreography's good, but I mean, I've watched a lot of Shaw Brothers movies in my time, and this is far from the best of them, but still, those guys couldn't crank out something bad when it comes to the fighting.
This is not Flying Guillotine. Okay?
No.
This isn't Five Fingers of Death.
Oh, both amazing. I mean, this is the thing where it's like, this is a dream movie because I love monster movies and I love kung fu movies. So I would have been the perfect audience for this when it came out. I would have been like,
we're pulling for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I sent the, I almost made this a crossover with my other podcast, The Action Shelf, because my partner over there, Michael Lissman, is one of the world's biggest devotees of kung fu cinema. And
you should have had him on.
I thought about it, but it didn't work out, and it was sort of too late to get the scheduling done for it. But
screw him.
But I did send him the poster for this as I was watching this last night. I just texted him the poster of this, and I'm going, this is what I'm watching right now. And I'll just pull it up what he texted back to me, because this is his review purely of the poster. He says, "It's like the planets have aligned to create the perfect film." And that is just, once again, that is just that is him reacting to the concept of this.
Yeah. And actually, that is still the strongest thing about this film.
Yeah.
Is the concept is still the strongest.
Because you go like, oh, kung fu vampires? That's a great pitch.
How could this get any better?
Yeah.
So here's a quote from Michael Carreras, who was the head of Hammer at the time.
Yes, our old pal Michael Carreras.
Head of
Hammer. The guy I like to say who ran it into the ground.
Yeah. And this is his quote from February of 1978. So 4 years after this came out, but actually the same year it came out in America, because it took a while to come out here because no one wanted it. The quote was, "East did not meet West." He goes, "I have a tremendous admiration for Shaw and his operation, and the relationship between him and us should have been very successful. But unfortunately, it wasn't, and nobody's blaming anybody. We just had two different points of view." And actually, I think that's fairly even-handed. Like, they both were like, this didn't quite go the way we wanted. Oh, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Talking about the movie is like, it's not enough of either one, it feels like.
It's I think that as you said, this works better as a martial arts film.
It does.
And the things that pull it down are the Hammer parts.
Yeah, it's like
even though
they needed to be integrated.
They needed to be.
Oh God, he's incredible.
Within 20 miles.
He's incredible in this. As always, but they needed to intertwine these ideas more, it seemed like, because it's almost like vampire movie, kung fu movie, vampire movie, kung fu movie. It's almost like they're fighting for supremacy on screen, as opposed to they kind of let the vampire shit fall to the wayside a little bit beyond just being like, they're vampires.
Yeah, I love the fact that the Seven Golden Vampires are still going to fight you like any other martial arts gang will.
The buildup of the Seven Golden Vampires does not deliver. It's not delivered upon when you actually see them in battle.
No. And since this is our final Peter Cushing film for the foreseeable future, well, I don't think he shows up in any of the other ones, does he?
He will show up in some stuff next season.
All right.
Yeah.
But this is the last one for a while, and the last of his in Hammer. This was a note. A lot of this I'm taking from a website that actually did a 2-part, very in-depth look at the making of this film, a website called coolasscinema.com. If you want a background that's very even-handed and actually is like leaning more towards the Shaw brothers, because they go, people talk all about what the English brought to this movie. I want to talk about what the Chinese did. But this is a very cool behind-the-scenes thing about Peter Cushing. Peter Cushing's participation is notable for more reasons than just acting in the movie. Always an amicable man, his presence was felt in ways not exclusive to appearing in front of the camera. He designed models of the vampire's lair that were remarkably detailed. The design of the vampire's lair was Peter Cushing's. And on the website,
because the one thing we have stressed across all the biographical information about him, he was a fucking nerd, man.
He was a fucking nerd. And as we had said, like in the bio thing when I was talking about, is he did start out making architectural drawings and so forth, and art was a big thing for him. The picture on the website, on that coolasscinema.com, they have a black and white photo of his models. They're incredibly detailed. Highly recommended. Go to that website and check the picture out, just because the man was incredibly talented.
I'm looking it up right
insane. But they also say the actor also contributed his narration, accompanied by music and sound effects, to the LP release of the movie, coinciding with its theatrical unveiling, which means somewhere out in the world,
I need this.
Is an album.
I need this
of this with him narrating.
I love it.
Oh my god!
I need this in my. I have to track this down.
With his wife Helen having been dead for 2 years, Cushing kept himself occupied and busy, performing in his usual stellar capacity and remaining a source of contentment for those around him, despite the grief he carried with him till his passing in 1994. I love Peter Cushing. I love everything about the man, and doing this podcast has been an honor to dive into this guy's filmography in a way that was very spotty through my life, but being able to do it all in a chunk, this guy's a genius.
The thing is, sometimes you hear about these old movie stars and you're like, oh god, Peter Cushing just seems like a lovely man.
A lovely man.
A man who was devoted to his wife. I mean, essentially was just like a walking shell after she died, it seemed like.
Yeah.
And clearly enjoyed what he did, took it very seriously, was ever the professional, could be a bit of a curmudgeon, but never in a way that seemed to lash out at others.
No.
And just people, I mean, every behind-the-scenes thing I've watched, every quote I've seen, people have nothing but amazing things to say about working with him.
First-class gentleman and amazing talent. And
Lee as well, and he had a different personality, but also seemed to be, aside from being like fucking another Dracula movie, but even still wasn't like, and then he was a shit on set as a result of that.
Is it just the Brits? Was it something about the system that they came up in of acting schools or whatever that they, by and large, unless you're talking about the crazy drinkers, but even the crazy drinkers, most of them are heralded as being professionals on set.
Yeah.
And then they go out and destroy half the town.
Right,
Richard Burton and Richard Harris.
I was going to say Richard Harris, yeah.
Oliver Reed.
Yeah. Somehow Lon Chaney Jr.'s in there, even though he came from America. I don't know.
I played the son of a Welshman in a movie once. You might have seen it called The Wolf Man. I did a lot of research.
NECA, one of my favorite action figure companies, is putting out a really nice line of Universal action figures that I've been looking at, and they do have a very detailed Lon Chaney Jr. from the Wolfman figure, and I just thought it's missing a whiskey bottle though. If we really want to
make you one, make you one.
God damn it! I have the fucking Wolfman. Serve me again.
Sir, we can't allow you in the bar. You still have goat and yak for
give me another one. Come on. Fight me then. Broderick Crawford learned how that goes.
Oh my god.
Anyway,
I love that guy, and I'm also very happy that we're very far away from dealing with him.
We love all these guys. These are our guys.
We do. These are our guys.
And we're going to get a whole bunch. Yeah.
Who are your guys?
Who are you guys? Like Bela Lugosi and Boris Karloff.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I see it.
Yeah. You know, one time when I was working the door at the store, Peter Cushing came by. Actually, he's a cool guy. You know.
Yeah.
That was back when I was hanging out with Kinnison at the time.
I was getting some coke for Kinnison, and I bumped into John Barrymore.
Christopher Lee, he came by, and we love Maron.
We do love Maron. He's still going. God bless that dude.
He's done like what's he on, like number 1600 episode or whatever it is.
I am sorry that Glow didn't come back for another season, because he was doing really good work.
He was great on
show.
there. Yeah, he's a good actor.
Yeah, Maron was great. Yeah. Glow was great. But anyway,
good show. Yeah.
We need to
talk about this poster.
Yeah, we do.
The glory of this, which I really like this poster. It is, although I will say, aside from the words on it, it doesn't really look like a vampire movie. It looks like a Shaw Brothers kung fu movie. Peter Cushing's not even on this poster. I don't think.
He was never the draw.
Even though he does get first billing here when we see the cast list, so.
Sure.
Yeah.
And he's the only actor in the film. I'm sorry. That's harsh, but
it's true, though. It is true.
Wow.
This is one of the worst casts we've seen. I mean, the Kung Fu guys are really Kung Fu guys. They do great Kung Fu. But even the other
stars,
even the other non-Kung Fu actors are horrible in this.
Julie Edge,
is one of our worst leading ladies, though.
She's the last of the Va Va Voom Hammer gals, and she had been in the, what is it? Their prehistoric movie that didn't have any dinosaurs in it, but everyone was topless, and basically that was the whole thing.
What was that? The creatures that the world forgot?
Yeah, maybe. I think so. And it's awful. And then she's in this thing, and you're like going,
it's got to be that. It's the only thing on her resume that
she could be.
You know what though? She brings us into 007 corner.
I know.
She's in On Her Majesty's Secret Service. We've had a few of the gals from On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
To be honest, to be frank, that movie has perhaps the highest female
It does,
count.
because most of the girls that have been in these movies are in the same scene, which is as the various nationalities of women at the allergy clinic.
Yes, they're all getting hypnotized in their sleep to become assassins.
In one of the more insane villain plots in that franchise.
You mean one of the best thought out and awesome?
I mean, it's one of my favorites just for how loopy it is. And I just love that movie, as a lot of people do. I still think it's underappreciated. I still think Lazenby deserved another crack at the part.
He deserved another crack. I'm
not saying he's great, but I'm saying that you can see the moments where you're like, yeah, he's onto something here. And
I will say that in those fight scenes, he's very much like, dude.
That's the thing he has down. He has the physicality of Bond down very much. He needed to work on the charm, but I think he could have gotten there, especially if he shook off the nerves of taking over the character the first time. Because it feels like, and this is just me talking about Bond again, but it feels like he's just going, all right, play this down the middle. Don't make any big choices.
It kind of feels that way.
Kind of get there, and unfortunately, he has one of the best Bond girls ever in Diana Rigg.
But my God,
their scenes aren't amazing. She's carrying those scenes. Let's say that.
She's carrying those scenes,
and apparently those two did not like one another either.
Imagining a Connery Rigg.
I mean, here's the thing: if Connery was in that movie, it would unquestionably be considered the best of them, with no doubt about it. Because it's got some of the best stuff.
Even with Telly Savalas as Blofeld.
Because Telly Savalas, you're like, yeah, I get that he's bald, but he's just Telly Savalas. He's not playing Blofeld. And I love Telly Savalas.
Who loves you, Bondy?
Yeah, exactly. But you're just like, you're not doing anything, man. Why didn't we bring Donald Pleasance back? Anyway, back to this movie, because Donald Pleasance still, in my opinion, the best Blofeld.
Agreed, and I want to be in an alternate universe where it was Donald Pleasance and Sean Connery with Diana Rigg. That movie would have destroyed.
It would have been a masterpiece.
It
would have been a masterpiece.
A masterpiece.
Really, it would be like you'll never top that.
And you would keep that Louis Armstrong song
because it's great. We have all the time in the world.
God Damn it. The death of Tracy Bond.
Man, that's another moment, unfortunately, where I don't think Lazenby. He's trying, man. He's really trying in that scene, but it's just he's not there yet.
And you know what's awesome is that we've talked about Bond for 15 minutes now.
Look, I'm always on the verge of talking about Bond. It's just one of my great loves. We need
to go back to China in 1804.
Yeah. So anyway, I think we don't have to go on the poster for too long.
The poster is well illustrated.
It is.
It does look like a martial arts poster. Yeah. It really doesn't sell vampires either. It's just
other than a very abstract, almost vampire drawing here, and he's holding
the
a
gold
cool
mask
sword.
Thing. Yeah.
Which is awesome. But then we have who seems like the main character of the movie, according to this poster, in his gi with the deepest of V's and that open gi top, showing off them pecs.
Are those rippling Bruce Lee-esque pecs?
Yeah, it's very Bruce Lee, obviously.
Deadly horrors.
And also
Dragon thrills.
Yeah, the first kung fu horror spectacular. Which I'm like, fuck, I'm on board, man. And also, can I talk about that they do have different colored outfits on this poster that I wish they had in the movie. They've got some yellow outfits and some red outfits, and yeah, man, nobody wears those in the movie. Come on,
that would have helped. Come on.
Yeah, that's where the come on comes into this.
Other than the female of their group,
she gets her own outfit.
Blue.
She gets a powder blue, which she's wearing yellow. It seems like on the poster, though.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah, so I don't understand. And then there's just a bunch of faces in the background, including Julie Edge, who's in there. You got to look for her.
Yeah,
it's really a Where's Waldo. There is a ghostly figure in between the guy's legs here.
Now, I like this one. It's well done, but I like this one so much better than the batshit insane one for the American release, The Seven Brothers Meet Dracula.
Black Belt versus Black Magic.
That's actually a pretty cool tagline.
It is. We're really selling vampires here.
Yes.
We have a woman who is not the woman from the movie. I don't know who this is.
She is basically wearing a karate gi with nothing underneath.
Yeah, nothing else. Not even wearing the pants of the gi either. Just the gi top.
Nope. And she's kung fu kicking Dracula.
And he's going,
classic, absolutely classic Dracula.
Yeah,
that doesn't look anything like Christopher Lee or the guy in this movie.
You haven't seen Kung Fu until you've seen the seven brothers and one sister take Dracula. And once again, here we aren't even bothering to tell you Peter Cushing's in this movie.
Nope. But at least they're telling us that this movie, it's dynamite.
Or as Jimmy J.J. Walker would say, it's dynamite.
Yeah, but he actually he copyrighted that where you break it into syllables.
Dynamite. Yeah. And I have
actually say that.
I have heard that you can pay him to be in something, but you have to pay him extra to say it. And that's not a joke. That's very true.
Actually, that doesn't surprise me. Mm-hmm. It's like, I will be in your movie for $1,000.
Yeah.
I will say dynamite for an extra.
I learned this from the wonderful podcast Real Friends, Fake Doctors, the Scrubs Rewatch podcast, in which there was a Jimmy J.J. Walker cameo, and they talked about they did not have the budget to get him to say dynamite. They hired him to do a cameo, but they couldn't afford for him to say dynamite.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, and so he is in it. And
I don't know. At lunch, let's pass a hat around, see if we could just.
I rewatching that episode. I will say it is awkward that he doesn't say dynamite because it's almost like, then why else is he here?
Right. Is it supposed to be a veiled sequel to Good Times? Is he actually supposed to be?
He's supposed to be himself and he's in a JD fantasy. So it's the pop culture image of Jimmy J.J. Walker,
of course.
In a doctor's uniform. So you would think he would say dynamite, but nope, they didn't have the money.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, let's talk about the movie. Let's dive into the movie itself in the shortest conversation I'm sure we'll ever have, because there's about 25 minutes of plot in this movie, and that doesn't even work unto itself. So,
no.
Because we open with a guy going up a mountain, trudging up this mountain, He passes by a dude holding a goat.
We are told that it's Transylvania in 1804, which of course Brendan's continuity brain just lights up, and I go,
I tried. The continuity of this doesn't work, but I want to make
the events of the novel Dracula. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. But it is a Chinese wanderer in Transylvania. That's interesting.
Yeah, you're like, okay. All right. Already we're bringing the cultures together here.
He has come to Transylvania seeking Count Dracula. Yeah, the guy with the goat is like, well, that's weird. Yeah. It's a foreign type person, and he goes away. And then the Chinese guy finds Castle Dracula.
Pretty easily, too.
Yep.
And also, for our sake and his, luckily, Dracula is in a coffin with just a big old D on it.
Well, we've seen that before, actually, and including in the Hammer films. Oh, that's obviously the crest of Dracula. Oh, look at the signet ring, and it's like, okay.
Yeah. I mean, this one's a lot easier to spot than when Bud Abbott recognized it in. Original Dracula crest, obviously, Lou. Come on.
This stone tomb. This is hilarious because as the Chinese guy kneels like subserviently before it, the concrete top, the stone top of it, slides over of its own accord, and we hear it go boom.
Yeah.
Next time we look at the coffin, that stone lid is nowhere near it.
Nope.
I'm like, a stone lid doesn't just fly off to another side of the room.
Oh, I love the idea that Dracula just pushed it all the way across the room.
Maybe he did. Yeah, in the last little push, he's like, you know what?
But also,
fuck it.
You would think it would be a louder sound of it crashing to the ground than just the boom of it falling.
I thought maybe it would be in pieces or something. But anyway,
because Dracula's already doing some kung fu moves on that lid. Ka-chow! Yow! That is the only bummer to me in this movie is Dracula in full Dracula getup does not do any martial arts.
It's very true. We're about to get to it. The really weird way this movie decides to deal with Dracula
really
in the
weird,
Far East.
Man. Really weird. Because
but here
Dracula wakes up and he's like, "Who the
pops up
is in my house, man?"
Yeah, I know. He does that cool vertical raise out of the coffin where it's just like, I am in my dead pose,
I did think,
pop up.
You know what? Points to this movie over some of the other Dracula movies that were 2 minutes in, and I'm looking at Dracula. I'll give this movie that they do not hold back on the Count himself.
Unfortunately, the Dracula we get.
Yeah.
Who the fuck is this fucking?
Who is this guy? I mean, literally.
I'm sorry for the language, but it's terrible.
John
the makeup
Forbes
is terrible.
Robertson as Dracula.
He is all kinds of haunted house Dracula in like in Encino, California suburb.
Yeah.
He's that
This
good.
is somebody's dad as Dracula for Halloween.
And it looks like somebody's mom did his makeup. It is terrible.
Oh, come
They've
on,
got
dear.
green light on him.
Yeah. Yeah, it almost seems like they know it's embarrassing. Like the way they're lighting it.
His eyebrows up so they have a little point. It's just dumb.
And the whole time they're like, Christopher never would have let us do this to him. Did they do you know did they try to get Lee back for this?
They did.
I'm sure they did. I'm certain they did. I mean, I get it because he's but also this would have been so little time.
This time he meant it. This time he's like, no means no.
And I wonder, would Dracula as himself have been in it more had Christopher Lee played it?
Possibly.
And would we have seen Christopher Lee kung fu fighting?
No. I'm almost willing to bet no.
I would say the sweep he would have with that big old leg of his.
That's very true. The legs and the arm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He wouldn't need to kung fu fight because he could just pick people up and throw them across a room.
He could just clothesline people constantly.
Yeah. He's just walking through rooms with both arms outstretched. I
think I broke his fucking neck. Sorry, that's a completely different movie. But in this thing,
this guy though, by the way, the guy who plays Dracula in this had quite the career in a ton of stuff.
But
lots of BBC.
He's terrible here.
Lots of BBC stuff.
I'm not gonna mince words. He's god awful.
And his final appearance was in 2008 in a documentary called "The Legend of Hammer Vampires" that he hosted.
Damn.
Yeah.
Well, it's too late to get that money back. But anyway.
But now I need to seek this out because I want to watch this documentary.
Understood.
Yeah.
You don't need to watch a documentary. You've watched every one of their movies, except for Vampire Circus. We didn't do
because it doesn't. We talked about it.
But that's the only Hammer vampire movie we didn't do.
It is on YouTube, uploaded by a user titled the Peter Cushing Appreciation Society.
Oh, nice.
Yes. I know what I'm watching tonight.
John, I've never seen you more excited.
I know. I'm actually psyched to watch this.
You guys are very lucky that you're not seeing what's on camera. Anyway, so the Dracula speaks, Draculese, as in he's British, to the Chinese
everybody's man. British in this movie.
But the Chinese man speaks Chinese. I liked that. I liked that they went ahead and had him speaking Chinese and Dracula just understanding him. So this guy basically says, Dracula knows all. He's like, hey, man, the 7 golden vampires in my land need your help. And you are the arch vampire.
This guy.
You are our leader.
That is one of my favorite things in this movie, how often they call him arch vampire. I love that.
Yeah.
Because they keep talking about, not only does this guy need to seek him out because he's the arch vampire, but later when they're trying to recruit Van Helsing, they're like, you're the only one who has faced the arch vampire, and you've defeated the arch vampire. Him down.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I love it. The other thing, this guy is the high priest of the temple of the 7 golden vampires.
Yes.
And Dracula goes, yeah, man, I can help you out with that because when I resurrect the 7 golden vampire, that will lead me to my revenge on the earth. They can help me with that.
Yeah, and he's also like, and I'm kind of bored with Transylvania right now. Literally nothing's going on. And then he says,
never thought, why don't I go somewhere else?
Yeah, I know. He goes, yeah, but if I'm going to go mix with the 7 golden vampires, I should go in a guise that they will respond to. So I'm going to take your face.
Okay. Why? Dracula's already the most respected vampire, so why would he need to look like somebody else? Also, I didn't know Dracula had this ability. We haven't seen him do this.
No, this is like Superman pulling that cellophane S off his chest. And
that moment,
the Kryptonian villains having telekinesis.
That moment, the cellophane S, to my dying day, I will think of that, because even as a kid, I was like, what? The hell is that?
The hell is that?
It was perplexed. Even like 5-year-old me was like,
Superman 2 is such an awesome movie for the most part, but every now and then you're like, did you guys just give up? What is this nonsense?
Yeah, the telepathic
abilities. You can bone an Earth woman, but you got to give up your superpowers.
I mean, I go with that. That's a little bit more fine with me because I understand that from the story standpoint of,
I don't.
Yeah, but I mean, the whole point. I mean, I do like how immediately that backfires on him. Like almost immediately, they're like,
the Kryptonian villains show up, going, "No one is strong enough to stop us.
Exactly,
not even the son of Jor-El."
I mean, Terrence Stamp though, he sells that
Terrence
man.
Stamp,
Neil, son of Jor-El.
Lord, he is the best thing.
God, I love Terrence Stamp. I wish he had done one of these movies.
Because of his accent in the first movie, when he's being sent to the Phantom Zone, and he says, "You will bow before me, Jor-El, and then one day, your heirs." He's saying heirs, and it comes out as your ass. And I, as a kid, laughed and laughed. And then one day, your ass.
That's right.
And truthfully, the son of Jor-El's ass did kneel before him.
Right before breaking his hand and murdering him, right?
Throwing him in a deep thing.
Superman murders the Kryptonian fugitives in that movie, though.
We don't know where that pit in the Fortress of Solitude goes.
He makes them mortal and then throws them into a seemingly bottomless pit.
Sure.
Well, Lois Lane gets one. Lois Lane kills Ursa, to be fair.
It's always, the girlfriend will always attack the gun mall or the female bad person.
Because we don't want that's a bad look for Superman to be hitting a lady. Although
I would love to Superman full on smacked Ursa because they're both super powered.
Well,
I mean, then
need I point you to Zack Snyder's Man of Steel, where he goes, he just goes to town on Feora in that.
I liked that.
Yeah, there's no like you're a lady. No, Superman's punching her as much as anybody else.
I hate Man of Steel.
We're talking about Superman now. We were talking about James Bond. We're talking about Superman. These are our classic distracting.
I gave you the James Bond.
Yeah.
You gave me the Superman. Right. We move on.
Right.
We move on.
We move on. So he proceeds to take this guy's form with a lot of smoke and spinning.
Yeah, it it looks a little bit like an early music video because there's like a lot of fog machine, and then they do spin around with some crazy lights.
And it's weird that he kept singing, "I just died in your arms tonight."
It could have been a full-on like scene out of Xanadu or something. It's
Xanadu.
It could have been a romantic ballad.
I saw somewhere. I saw somewhere in the middle there he turned into Olivia Newton-John.
Yeah, and they do kiss.
Yeah.
But they spin around.
And this goes on for a while. Like, this is kind of long. And just this purple smoke. And you're like...
And then Dracula is just the guy. He now looks exactly like...
And the guy has Dracula's voice, of course.
Yes.
And he's like, now that I have this form, I shall take over the earth! And then we cut to the legend of the 7 golden vampires. And you're like, oh, we're in for a weird one.
Yeah.
I will say that. It's not we're in for a good one, but this opening sequence, you go, well, this is going to be fucking weird.
Yeah.
This is going to be really, really weird.
And
it does deliver on that promise. This movie is weird.
We cut to 1904.
Yes. Making absolutely no sense.
I know. Now, granted, this could work with the novel. Van Helsing would have survived the end of the novel.
Yeah, but he had already turned into the Chinese guy before the novel.
Yeah.
Now we cut to after the novel.
Yeah.
This
doesn't work.
Don't understand.
But Van Helsing is in Chungking, I believe, and he's teaching it at a university.
Yes. Which I love.
And it's
Dracula, or Van Helsing, is teaching Chinese culture to Chinese people. We need to bring in this British guy to tell the myths of our own culture.
It is weird that he would be there.
And then later he's like, I don't know anything about Chinese vampires. Well, then what was the whole fucking story you just told, man?
He tells the story of the 7 golden vampires to a class full of Chinese men.
Yeah.
Only men, I think. No women.
No,
in
all dudes. All dudes.
1904. Yeah. And
women couldn't know things. That was illegal at this time.
No. They weren't allowed to have brains until I believe 1914.
I think that's right. That sounds right. Yeah,
10
we're 10 years out.
Ladies.
Yeah. Come on, you just got to hold on for another decade, gals.
But he's very spiffily dressed, teaching them this legend of their own homeland, and it's about a guy who, he says basically the 7 golden vampires, we don't know what town or where they rise from, but they rise like every generation. They do havoc, and there's always one person who just gets fed up and does something about it.
And we get this story of this farmer who I do love the idea of somebody just has enough of this shit.
Yeah, that's this guy. He's got a hoe with him. He's got a fucking hoe, and he's like, you know what? I'm taking care of these 7 golden vampires.
No, don't go out there, man. No, that's it. They've gone too far this time. I'm gonna deal with this shit.
Yep, and he does kind of.
Well, he heads over to the temple of the 7 golden vampires with his hoe.
Where they have. This was really weird. They have a circle of slabs, tables, with women like strapped to them.
Yeah.
And the women are acting like they're all in pain. I don't quite understand why. I mean, I'm sure it's uncomfortable.
Some of them have their tops off, some of them don't.
Yes, some have their tops off.
Which I'm like, that's the Hammer side of things. Yeah.
That's for Daddy. No, actually, that wasn't. The Shaw Brothers did lots of sexploitation. But anyway.
That's true.
I think that was probably
the one thing they agreed on.
Yes. Carreras and Shaw were shaking
tits in this thing. Oh yes,
absolutely, yeah. But there is like a cauldron in between all the tables that's boiling. With maybe blood? Their feet are getting kind of.
But it's a red liquid, so it's because later we see blood being drained into it. So it's a boiling pot of blood.
Yeah, and the ladies are going, and the farmer comes in. The 7 golden vampires, we see them full on right now.
Yeah.
And let me describe them, if I may.
Please do.
These are stringy-haired corpse vampires.
Yep.
Whose faces look uniformly like brown paper bags have been rubber cemented to someone's face.
Yeah.
They have cocktail skewer fangs that stick out over their bottom lip.
The fangs were the part that got me the most.
And they do have badass golden half masks, which I liked.
Yeah.
And they all have badass golden bat.
I will say, in terms of props, once again, I would like to have one of those golden bats.
It's funny you should mention that, John, because do I think this movie succeeded? No. Do I think it's a crazy misfire that was fun to watch? Yes. Mm-hmm. Did I spend some time last night going online seeing if I could find a place that sold replicas of the... I did. And they are available in 24 karat gold plate for about $130. Okay. I said no.
I'm not into them that much.
I was tempted and I said no. But yeah,
give me a 3D printed one somewhere. Yeah, but yes, I was watching this going like, I could put one of those up.
I could definitely get that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they don't say anything. They're all just standing there like, yeah, this is cool watching these ladies writhe around.
They're not doing shit. They're don't really do shit in this movie. The 7 golden vampires are a real letdown in this picture.
Dracula's not there yet because this is a flashback to the legend. So the farmer comes in.
He comes in and he goes, all right, I'm going to start freeing these ladies.
Yeah.
And he gets one mostly taken off with the slab, and then the vampire's like, hey, wait a minute. They're a little bit like the Borg where... They're a little bit like the Borg where they don't really get involved until they know you're a threat to them.
Yeah. They just stand there and then like, hey, is he? Hey, that's our lady.
Oh, wait, we should do something about... Wait, give him a... Okay, he is doing what we're thinking. Now we get him.
Time for some kung fu.
So the vampires attack, and when he slices one of them open, it starts emitting gas, like dust or something. It's like...
Yeah.
Basically, vampire deflates. They deflate when they are killed.
Sort of, but they all kind of die in different ways, as if the makeup department was like, oh, I got another crazy idea. Yeah. But this first guy really does emit gas and deflate.
Yeah.
And the farmer takes his golden bat necklace, because he, like us, are like, that's pretty badass.
I'm gonna hang that on my wall. That looks cool.
Or I'll wear it to parties.
Yeah.
People ask me about it. It'll be a
totally killed a vampire, everybody. Check it out. Took this off his corpse.
Oh, you mean the legend of the 6 golden vampires?
Yeah, well, you're talking to the guy who took it from 7 to 6, baby.
So he does get out.
Yeah.
He survives.
Yeah.
He takes the
on his way out.
Yeah.
This is not Dracula. This is still Ka is the guy's name. He goes on some kind of crazy spell, and all these corpses start rising up out of their graves. Because not only are there the 7 golden vampires, they can raise the dead, specifically the undead victims. They say that. These are the victims of the vampires that are now their undead minions. My biggest problem with the movie, though, is that the vampires are just as killable as the undead minions.
Yeah. The golden vampires have cooler weapons and look.
Yeah. But the undead...
But I like the undead minions, because the undead minions...
I thought they were actually cooler than the vampires in some ways.
Yes. They look very much like the Blind Dead from those movies, where it's the Templar, the undead Templar Knights.
Yeah.
So they basically look like, skeletal people.
Skeleton
what I really
warriors.
Skeleton Warriors. Everyone remembers that cartoon.
I love that. I love that show as a kid. But that was a misfire.
The action figures were shit. But
that was a problem.
But the way they move is what I like. They decided to here's the thing. They won't march. They'll kind of do this weird hoppy walk.
Yeah.
And they look kind of adorable.
They gave me a little bit of the vibe of the Army of Darkness from Army of Darkness.
Yeah, a little bit.
They have a little bit of that skeletal sort of thing with their marching around in their helmets and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then I don't know where they get these horses that they're all riding, but they're all on horseback at a certain point, chasing down this farmer. And they eventually do catch up with the farmer and just slice his throat open.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Bad news. But then,
wait, isn't he at a shrine or some
yes,
sort of
because
thing?
he puts the golden vampire in this shrine,
right.
And then when one of these guys goes to take it,
yeah, it burns them.
Yeah, well, it lights his hand on fire and then proceeds to burn the entirety of this guy. And they're like,
yeah,
oh shit, I guess that's a holy bat now.
Yeah, I think because he laid it on a shrine to Buddha.
Yeah. Which, Buddha and the cross are not like the same thing.
Hey, man.
I just love the idea. This is China.
Goodness.
So their Jesus is Buddha. Well, number one, there's
still a lot of... Helsing. They have Van Helsing say in Europe, it's the sign of the cross of our Lord and Savior.
Actually, didn't we? I mean, once again, continuity out the window. But I did like the idea that literally any kind of holy thing messes with the vampires.
That's always been my preference.
I like that.
It's really about.
So yeah,
it's a focal point for goodness.
So yeah, in that situation, then yeah, the Buddha works, but also the cross would work too.
Yes.
Yeah, but here it's got to be the Buddha.
Yes.
And also the idea that everyone is Buddhist in China is
gotta be the
not
Buddha.
Accurate.
No, that's not accurate at all.
In fact, there's a large number of Christian, or Catholic, particularly Catholic, which I know mainly from John Woo movies because there's always a bunch of Catholic shit in them.
There's always doves.
Yeah. Well, and the whole ending of The Killer happens in that church, which is awesome. Go watch The Killer, everybody. That movie rules.
John, you don't have to say that. Everyone has seen The Killer.
It's an amazing movie. Hard Boiled, also great.
Hard Boiled is great.
Yeah.
Bullet in the Head.
Bullet in the Head rocks too. Once a Thief, great.
All right, let's just stop.
Yeah. By the way, wish John Woo had made a vampire movie. That would have been awesome.
Oh!
Can you imagine Chow Yun-Fat killing vampires? Now we're talking.
I can now.
Now we're talking.
Now. We are talking now.
Yeah. So yeah, we hear this whole story. And Van Helsing says, that's why I believe the story. And in fact, I do love that immediately the title of this movie is out the window because he goes, there are only 6 golden vampires left.
It's true.
And they're talking about,
there was a previous legend of 7.
Yeah.
They're just down to 6.
And he goes, thanks to this brave farmer, they're now
we don't know his name, and we don't know where this happened. Yeah. But that's the legend.
But he goes, but I do believe the legend. Yes, I do. And somebody says, well, this Dracula, he was a madman. No, and I love this. I wrote this down because it goes, Dracula was not a madman. He was the arch vampire, the lord of the undead.
Yeah.
And I fucking killed him, baby. Like a whole bunch of times, actually.
I'm starting to wonder if you saw the same cut that I did. I saw
the one that has a lot of
delivery.
I saw the one that has a lot of Cushing improv in it.
Yeah.
That's right.
This is my herald. It's a long form.
Yeah.
And you're just going to have to ride with me, baby.
Yeah. Yes, and sweetheart.
I need an occupation and a location. Go.
Yes. Oh, did someone say Castle Dracula and Vampire Hunter?
This is all working out just as I planned.
And so, but everybody in this class is like, bullshit. None of this happened. Yep. You're crazy. Let's get out of here and stop listening to this crazy old British guy. Am I right? And he's like, no, please. I swear I killed Dracula. He was real.
No. But they all bail, except for one guy.
Except for one guy who we actually don't see. Well, no, yeah, there's one guy who's like,
But he, instead of him talking to Van Helsing after the lecture, he'll wait till night to creep into his house.
But first, we have to go to a very fancy party.
Oh my God, is it fancy?
It is very fancy. And here we meet the son of Van Helsing, Leyland Van Helsing. Brand new character. Who's this guy? Don't know. We can
only assume he'll lead to being the grandfather or father of the one that's in Dracula AD 1972.
Lothamer?
We know the Van Helsing family.
Isn't it Lothamer Van Helsing in 72?
Yeah, or Larimer or Lothamer.
I think it's Lothamer.
Larry
Van Helsing.
Larry Van Helsing.
How you doing, Larry Van Helsing? There's a comedy in there where it's Van Helsing's American cousin who shows up. How you doing, Larry Van Helsing?
Hey, how you doing? Yeah. Learned all I know about killing vampires from the old man.
Larry Van Helsing.
Worst show ever. I would not watch that.
And it's just the proper British Van Helsing being like, oh boy.
It becomes like King Ralph. It's just a slob of a guy. He's like, he's always a little bit buzzed.
Yeah.
Hey, we got to stop for a brewski or something before, the bars close at 2. We can still kill the vampire.
I found a real neat place. They got pizza and beer. It's right on the way to Castle Dracula.
And the pizza place has got lots of garlic. We could use that, right? Garlic. Hello. I did my reading. Shut up.
But here, when you're talking about the nationality of Van Helsing, they make a point of talking about the Van Helsings being British in the scene.
Yeah.
Which is wrong.
That's wrong.
That's just not true.
No, he's Dutch.
Yep. Very clearly. Though, is he ever played as Dutch up to... I mean, Hopkins really leans into it. But I'm trying to think before that. I don't remember what Olivier does. I don't think he does Dutch, though.
Olivier does something very similar, I'm not joking, to what he does in Jazz Singer, which is kind of a middle European, possibly Polish Jew.
I love that at a certain point, Olivier hit that, and he goes, that's what I like to do.
That is what I like to do. And so it is very like, it doesn't sound British, which I give props, but he sounds much more German in 1979's Dracula.
I mean, I keep bringing it up, but I fucking love Hopkins, though, man.
I love Hopkins.
Hopkins is great in that movie.
Hopkins is perfect casting. There's good casting in that movie. Mm-hmm. Tom Waits is Renfield. Anthony Hopkins, Van Helsing.
Oh, Tom Waits in that movie. Oh, man. Obviously, Keanu Reeves.
What's his name is Seward?
Shit! It's a guy I love too.
Richard E. Grant.
Richard E. Grant is great.
Is great as Seward.
I like Cary Elwes and Cary Elwes
is great as Arthur Holmwood
and Billy Campbell.
Billy Campbell is a great Quincy.
Yeah,
I'd say pretty much everyone around.
Billy Campbell rules in that movie. He is such a badass in that film.
Man. Quincy Harker. I always have to don't forget we had a full-on fucking cowboy.
And they lean into that. He kicks ass in that movie with his big knife. That's a cool movie.
That didn't happen in this one, though.
No, literally none of that has anything to do with any of that. It's a fancy party, and Leland, was it Leland? Is that his name? Yeah, sure. Leland Van Helsing is talking to this guy, going like, well, unfortunately, I've had to invite some of the riffraff. Over there is the crime boss of China. I had to let him in. But, who's this? A looker at the party. And this is Vanessa Buren, who's played by the exceedingly dull Julie Edge. My God, she's bad in this thing.
She is, bottom line, eye candy. And I hate saying that.
Yeah.
But she has nothing else to give this movie. She's attractive, and kind of sexy, but she is a
deliver any of this dialogue.
No,
so she's Norwegian.
Yep.
So the accent is part of the problem, but that's not the whole thing, obviously. Well,
they do say that they say she's from Norway or something in this. They're not trying to pretend that she's British,
right?
Well, maybe they should have also explained why she can barely put a sentence together. Good Lord.
Yeah, and oh my God, the romantic pairings in this movie make no sense, because immediately you think, oh, well, Leland, this is obviously going to be a love interest for, and then they just abandon it.
I kind of like the way they do this, because that is the obvious, and then they flip it. It's like, well, he is attracted to her, goes over, talks to her, and she's like, sure, yeah. But yes, they will swap up for local companions.
The other thing, before they go over to her, though, this guy, whoever this guy is, whose party this is, whatever fancy British captain or whatever this guy is going like, hey, could you tell your father to cool it with telling everybody the vampires are real? Because your family has a bad name in town now, because everybody says your father's a kook. But Vanessa's like, ooh, your father fascinates me. I've read all of his books about facing Dracula, and I would love to meet him. He's such an interesting guy.
Yeah.
And you get the sense Leland's relationship with his father is not explored at all in this movie. Is he embarrassed by him?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. No, I don't think he is, but
that would be a way to play it, though. It's like, yeah, my father's a kook, though.
Good. But why, if you thought your father was a kook, would you follow him to like a whole other country where he's going to be teaching?
I'm just saying it would have given Leland's a nothing character.
One thing that's very obvious about him is that he clearly has never spent any time listening to his father's stories about what to do with vampires, because he spends this whole fucking movie shooting guns at them and just acting like a fucking idiot. I'm like, you're Van Helsing's son.
Useless.
You're Van Helsing's son.
I mean, we see the granddaughter of Van Helsing in the modern day stuff. She knew what she was doing. He obviously taught her. Bit. Yeah, up to when she has to become a damsel in distress, which this movie is also guilty of, with the sister character who's a total badass right up until she's completely powerless. Meanwhile, we go to Van Helsing's home. Meanwhile, at the Hall of Justice, Superman comes into this movie. We cut to Van Helsing's house, and yes, one of the students who was at that lecture decides the best way to approach Van Helsing is to sneak into his house and creep up on him. And Van Helsing's reaction is just like, well, who are you?
Yeah, he's like, good evening, and to whom am I addressing? Yeah. So they're like, nice. He just has a cup of tea. He's like, well, you could have come in the front door, but hello.
I love that Cushing's just like, yeah, I'm not startled by this. Nope, yes, explain yourself.
Rolls with it.
And he goes, hey, I just got to apologize for all those assholes in there, because they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Obviously, vampires are real, and let me tell you how I know vampires are real. That farmer you were talking about, that was my grandfather, all right?
Holy shit. I missed that entirely. Are you serious?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wait.
And this is Sue. Which Sue is he, though? He's... I don't fucking know.
The whole family, that's their family name, and there's a bunch of them.
Yeah. I don't know. Anyway, that's the problem, is there's too many people in this family.
Kind of true.
Because you go, like, a certain point, like I said, I give up. I'm not going to keep track of all these people. And also, they're all going to die for the most part, so it doesn't really matter.
Kind of true, but this is our central heroic guy.
He's going... yes, I know all this is true. I believe you because my grandfather was the farmer. Then we cut back to Leland, because that's like, what? And then we cut back to Leland. And at this point, he's still talking to Vanessa. At this point, the crime boss guy sends somebody over to go, yes, pretty lady. My boss over there would like to escort you home for the evening. Don't worry. Not only would he like to escort you home, he would like to offer you the pleasure of his company.
Again, you really have brought it all home. That is eerily accurate.
I feel like that's the subtext, right? Is
or
I believe
the ZZ Top.
I believe that's the return of the Kentucky Dracula laugh that we were doing back in the Universal.
I say, does anyone here object to my drinking the blood of this young lady?
Well, if it ain't my old buddy Van Helsing. Can I offer you
Sit yourself down for a while, we'll have a nice chat.
Yeah. Slap some barbecue on these rib spoilers. There's blood in it. How do you think it gets so red, baby? It is. You know what? It is close to that ZZ Top.
Well, and they're doing they're doing John Lee Hooker.
Yeah.
So they're imitating John Lee. Yeah.
So anyway, Leland goes, well, actually, I've already offered to walk her home, so tell your boss that unfortunately, and this guy's just like, he's not going to like that.
Yeah.
But also, none of this matters because this crime boss isn't a character in this movie at all. post
it's so weird that there was any time spent setting any of this up because it has nothing to do with it.
It's a fair amount. We make a point of showing this guy's at the party. We make a point of having Leland piss him off. And
I thought maybe they would be instrumental in the end. Like they become like the bad guys team or the gangsters team up with them to take down vampires.
Like the end of The Rocketeer.
Like the end of The Rocketeer. It's like, yeah, I might be a mobster, but I'm all American.
Which I love because I can't remember which one it is, but there's an old Bogart movie I love where he's like a smuggler who ends up fighting Nazis with the organized crime of New York. Yeah. And they're like, hey, we may be criminals, but this is still our country. Get out, you Nazi bastards, Yeah. I can't remember which movie that is. It's like Across the Pacific or something like that. All Through the Night, I think it might be.
Yeah,
it's one of those. They all the like Bogart War era movies bleed together for me.
Of course they do.
But I love that one not because it's good, but just because it's so silly. And Bogart loves cheesecake in it. That's his big thing. How about a slice of cheesecake?
Oh. This is also vaguely.
Yeah, that's the big thing in it, where they're like, "Hey, boss, how about a cheesecake?"
I don't know.
So let's see. Yeah. So anyway, they this insults Crime Boss. So anyway, she does meet. He takes her home. She ends up meeting. Oh, where is this here? Oh no, sorry. I my own handwriting is confusing me. So he goes, okay. So we cut back to Van Helsing and the main hero guy, and he's going, look. So obviously he's my grandfather, so I know his name and I know where the village is where all this happened, and I want you to come with me to fuck up these vampires, man, because you're famous for killing vampires. Yeah. And Van Helsing's like, well, look, that's going to take a lot of money to get us there, and I don't have the money.
This is where he basically says, is like, you're the only one who went up against the arch vampire and lived. Yeah. You destroyed him.
Yeah. And then Van Helsing's like, well, yeah, it's going to cost a fortune, though, to get us there. So, I can't.
That's actually very realistic. It's like, he's like going, you know what? I'd love to. I don't have the money. I can't help.
He goes, I don't know what you think of me, but I'm not a rich man. Killing vampires, it doesn't bring in the cash it used to. I'm not robbing Dracula after I kill him. So he says, and don't worry, I've got 7 brothers that can help us fight the vampires. And he says,
that's convenient.
And he says, look,
is so convenient.
If you don't believe me, check this out. And he busts out the golden bat. And he's like, boom, there it is. Yeah. There it is. Boom goes the dynamite, I believe is what he says. So, meanwhile...
Is that where the phrase came from? Yeah. Right there is where it started?
Leland is walking Vanessa home when... Oh, I guess this is all that comes of the crime bosses. They are set upon by these guys. Only so you realize that all around them are the brothers, the Sioux brothers, who beat the living shit out of these guys. And they go, you are under the protection of the Sioux family.
Pretty sweet.
Yeah. And it's pretty good kung fu fighting. It's not bad.
Yeah. No, this scene is just
they also, should we say, they don't just beat them, they murder these men with their bladed weapons. They're dropping bodies, which I appreciate.
This is an appetizer, an aperitif. This is just the first taste. It's gonna get better.
This is about a half hour into the movie at this point, and it's like, all right, now we're kung fu fighting. This is what you paid to see, everybody.
Yes.
Although I'm going, this is not quite what I paid to see, because I don't see any vampires fighting right now. This is standard kung fu stuff.
It's true.
So they take Vanessa to Van Helsing's home, and she goes, "Oh, it's so wonderful to meet you. I've read all your books. You're such a great guy." And Sue is still going, I know you don't have the money, but we've got to go fight these vampires. And Vanessa's like, well, excuse me, I'm quite wealthy. I'll go ahead and fund the trip, but under one condition. You take me with you. And Van Helsing's like, absolutely not. Are you kidding me? This is no trip for ladies. He says something like that. Not only is the trip itself arduous, but we're specifically going to confront the undead.
Yeah. Well, and you could hear the boos from the theater. Yeah. The people the ladies going, hey.
But it's non-negotiable. So we just cut to them on their trip and she's with them. Mm-hmm. And so they are walking. And we get another scene similar to that in Captain Kronos, where a bunch of people show up in black, and they're clearly bad guys, and I do not know who they are, but it leads to a big fight.
At the end of the day, you were just there for the fight anyway.
It doesn't matter. Do you know who these guys are? This army of guys in black show up, and the Sue brothers are just like, oh shit, this is bad news.
It's really just so at this point they can show off again, and there is more of this is the archery expert.
Yeah.
This is the guy that has the mace.
There are some great arrow kills in this movie that I appreciate. There's some good axes to the chest on a couple people. Yes. All my notes are just like a fight ensues, plenty of slicing and dicing.
It sounds like a U-note.
Yeah. And then ultimately, of course, the Sue brothers win. And Van Helsing is like, well, that was some display. Not bad, gentlemen. I really enjoyed how you disemboweled that one fellow. Oh, and the one who was shot in the eye with the arrow. Truly first-class stuff.
Hear, hear.
Yes, because you've got to love, because I did think, obviously, we did talk about Peter Cushing and his torch later, but I did think, is this just going to be the whole movie of Peter Cushing watching people fight? Yes. Quite excellent. Quite, yes. Not bad. Oh, yes. Punch him.
This thing with him and his pith helmet.
Oh, I love him. I love him in his little pith helmet.
It's a Victorian pith helmet, so it's one of these really tall ones. And it has like the dangling neck
keep
guard
the sun
thing
off the neck.
He looks a little dainty, but it's mainly
Van
because
Helsing is a little dainty, I feel like.
Yes, but he spends all these scenes, as you say, he's just hanging back. He's watching them work.
But it's all a build-up, you realize, until he goes off at the end of this movie.
Yeah.
So they make camp for the night.
I don't know if he goes off, but he gets involved.
Goes off.
This dude's he's insane.
Yeah, he's snarling and drooling. And, fuck yeah. He bites. He bites some vampires. It's weird. He's like,
tears a chunk out of his neck. He's like, spits it out.
How do you like how that shit feels, huh? I would love that. Now you know how it feels, asshole.
That is not what happens, but God bless your imagination.
I know. I'm always imagining cooler movies. So here they're at camp, and this is where we get. Boy, I hope you're paying attention, everybody, because very quickly we have the lead Sue brother, whose name I can't even remember the lead guy's name.
No,
and he's going, all right, see those guys? Those are my twin brothers.
Isn't it like
Jing-Su?
Something like that.
Yeah, it might.
But
be.
Yes, this is where he does the stand up and take a bow thing, where he introduces each one of them and talks about their specialty.
Yeah, you're right. It's Ching-Su.
Ching-Su.
Yeah, Ching-Su. And he's going. He's like, see those two. Those are my brothers who are twins. They both have swords made of pure steel. And see that big guy? He's the big guy. He's got a mace. And these two over here, they have axes. And that guy, he's the bow and arrow guy. And then there's my sister. She's just awesome in general.
He's just generally awesome.
Which all I can think about is how many of these movies there was always a sister kung fu character. There was sister Street Fighter and stuff like that, which it just made me want to watch the Street Fighter movies, which I love so much.
That would be fine.
I'll
allow you to do it.
Yeah.
Sonny Chiba.
I love Sonny Chiba, and I did recently purchase that Shout Factory remastered box set of the.
Nice.
It does not have Sister Street Fighter, but it does have the Street Fighter trope. Sister Street Fighter's not as good, so it's all right.
Well, but it's a vague offshoot. It's not like a direct.
No. He's in it like for one scene, which I remember renting all those as a kid, and then getting a Sister Street Fighter and being like, "I've been duped." Because Sonny Chiba was on the box. He was on the VHS box, and I was like, "Oh yeah, let's keep."
I'd like to talk to your manager.
I watched the first three, and I was like, "Let's keep the train rolling." Oh, this is not the same thing at all.
No.
There is one of the movies though where he does tear a man's balls off. I think that might be. I think that's movie number 1. So we start with that shit.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, doesn't get any better than this. But.
So you're an easy man to please.
Yeah, I just need one ball rip and we're good. Oh man, little 10-year-old me going, that man doesn't have balls anymore. This is great.
I'm not sure, but I think that's the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, I was watching stuff that was way inappropriate for me as a kid because guess what? Yep. Nobody paid attention to what movies I was checking out from the library.
The tragic story that just
unfolded. Oh, it made me the man I am today, which, to be fair, it's up for debate whether that's a good thing. So, yeah, but this is one of those where it's like, man, that was quick. And I'm just going, I'm not going to remember any of this. It is like guys with swords, guys with an axe. That's what's important. But I already know that because I saw them use these twice now. So, let's see. And he goes, well, whatever we do. Oh, Van Helsing now is talking about, first we have to see the golden vampires attack this village, which I don't know what it has to do with anything other than, I guess, raising the stakes of they're at it again. They slaughter all the men in the village that try to fight them, and they take the women once again back to this is their move, man.
It's true.
And so Van Helsing then is, once again, because not a single one of these fucking Hammer movies can't have a scene where he goes, well, yes, the thing about vampires is they crave blood.
Well, the thing here, though, is that they're slightly altering it due to the cultural differences, which I at least like there was an attempt to have Van Helsing go, yet in your land, some of the things are different.
Yes, and honestly, he goes, so the guy said, because he explains you have to stake them in the heart, you can do this. They would respond to Buddha, not the cross, because of this. And then the guy goes, so fire wouldn't work on them? He goes, actually, I don't know, because they're your vampires. So I can't, maybe.
Who knows?
Yeah.
They look weird. Seriously, it's like a brown paper bag that's all crinkled up on their face.
Ching Su is like, well, here's the thing we do know. We got to keep them away from the 7 golden vampires because that will help resurrect them.
Yes.
Even though resurrect them, what? Like they're can they be more resurrected than they already are? Is that the idea? We never see them not just be decrepit corpse-like things.
Yeah. Actually, that's true. We don't really know what the stages of any of this are. Mm-hmm. It's very vague.
Yeah. Because the movie has no interest in its plot. It's like vampires.
We see one person turned into a vampire, and apparently it happens instantly.
Oh my god, the fastest turn to vampire I think I've ever seen in anything.
Ever seen?
Yeah.
I timed it.
Yeah.
Didn't even have time to take a breath.
And so you then have Leland going over to help the sister. I've got to get her name. What is it? Her name is Mikwe.
Okay. I liked her.
Yeah. She's actually named Sue, by the way. Sue is the actress.
Yeah. And she had been in a lot of fairly successful martial arts films.
She's got a ton of movies on her resume.
None of the martial arts actors do a very good job, and it could be that they're doing a language that's not their own.
I mean, that's a big point. And also,
yes,
they're not often called upon to do a lot of acting in these movies.
It's true, but they're not that impressive. At least
the thing I'm constantly reminded of when I go back and watch kung fu movies of this era is when you watch stuff like the Shaw Brothers movies, you go like, fuck, Bruce Lee was a talented man, because he just
oh my god, yes,
he just had a charisma that no other kung fu guy had. Like they were all
drives it home.
Yeah, you're just like, my god, there was a reason.
Hung, Jackie Chan. There'll be lots of people that come after.
They start to crop up. But like
Bruce Lee, was a god.
Yeah, because you go like,
I'm sorry,
my god,
he was a god.
He was. And for the love of God, will somebody please release the 1960s Green Hornet show on some form of home media, because it is unavailable out there in any kind of official release, and it pisses me off to this day. I want it so badly.
Guys, he's not playing. Like, I'm looking at his face. The rage is real.
The only episodes of it I have are the crossover with Batman, because that's in the Batman set.
Yeah. Yeah. Where he scared the shit out of Burt Ward.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
I love it. Oh dear.
So anyway, yes, they Leland goes over to help this Miquay wash the dishes in the river that they were eating off of. And somebody just goes, "Are they falling in love?" And it's like, "I believe they are." Well, that's nice. And I'm just, what the fuck? This came out of nowhere.
Yeah, and then he goes, "Yes, apparently love can blossom in the strangest of places." And he's saying that very cleverly because at that point, you see whatever her name is, she comes
Vanessa.
up to Leland.
Yes. Oh no, Miquay.
Miquay.
Yeah.
Right, that was the actress's name. But Miquay comes up to, and that's the whole thing. It's like, see, 2 different pairs have started. It's adorable. He's with the local gal, and terrible blonde woman actress is hooked up with martial arts man.
Yeah. It's just like this. It's indicative of this whole movie because they just go like, "See, those are the couples."
Yep.
There you go.
Why not? Sure.
So anyway, they we have our couples together. Meanwhile, the golden vampires are feeding on these women they've stolen from town, and the blood that is dripping off of them is being collected in this bubbling cauldron. What this is for? Who the fuck knows? It's never explained.
Nope.
So anyway, we cut that. We just get that scene real quick. That's what the vampires are up to. We cut back to the next day. They're continuing their journey. It's quite arduous. Everybody is, they keep trying to sell us on how arduous the journey is, but you never really feel it. It's all just people going like, "Whew, I am so tired. This is really hot, and this is really tiring me out."
Yeah. Like, whoo, this is some walking, huh?
Yeah, and so eventually they stop, and Van Helsing goes, "We must be close because," and this is exactly what he says, "I sense something malignant near." That's a very Van Helsing line. And also,
it is.
Van Helsing vampire senses activated.
Yeah, that's very much the case. Here's the thing, though. Again, we've stated it a million times. I'm going to state it 1,000,001 time, and that is Peter Cushing can sell us anything. This movie is below any of the others we've covered as far as thought and intelligence and dialogue.
Yep.
And this man sells it. You believe it. And when he gets intense, when something is happening, you buy it.
Yeah.
Even though the filmmaker has let you down and is not selling it, you're like, wow.
It works.
I just love what you're doing because you're awesome.
It works, man. It just works.
It just works.
He's great. So they set up camp inside of this cave that they find. And boy, we've progressed pretty quickly because Leland is sleeping right next to Miquay with his arm around her, and you're like, okay, I guess we're married now almost at this point. I mean, Jesus.
Well, I will say in my research, and again, off that website I mentioned where they did a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff, there were 2 scenes, one for each couple, that were cut. That were in the original Hong Kong version. Not sexy, just romantic-y, but there was at least an establishing of each relationship scene, and people felt they didn't really work anyway, but it was just so, yeah, we are missing the progression of their relationship. Suddenly they are just all bundled up together, and you're like, wow, okay, something must have happened. We missed it.
Yeah. No, it is just like, because they're clearly, I think whoever's in it just went, this is boring. Skip it.
Yeah, I think so.
This whole movie, I mean, because like we said, the pacing of this movie is much faster than any movie we've watched, but maybe to the detriment of this film, because it is just going like, you don't care, you don't give a shit. These are the characters, you don't care though. Whatever, they have weapons. That's what matters. Get to the fights. Get to the vampires.
That is
get to the shit. It just feels like everything is cut to the quick here, and you're just like, my God. And this thing clocks in at 89 minutes with credits. So it is on the shorter end of, usually these things are like 95, 98 minutes. We're looking at under 90 here.
Yeah.
This thing
that
is indicative of a lot of Shaw Brothers movies. Those things were quick, fast movies.
They are not plot heavy or dialogue heavy.
No,
That's
it's like
not
you came for the kicking and the slicing and the dicing. And by that I mean the Dyson vacuum.
You came for the kicking and the slicing and the dicing.
With fighting and the Dyson and the pudding pops.
Oof, boy, you can't even do that impression without feeling gross.
No,
it's
I gotta take a shower now because of the Cosby impression.
We'll be right back.
I gotta get the film of that off of me.
We'll be right back.
Yeah. So they're sleeping in this cave. Vanessa is sleeping next to Ching Su, but they're sleeping head to toe, so no funny business is going on.
Yeah.
And he's kind of shivering in his sleep, so she very lovingly puts this blanket over him. And we're all going, "Oh."
Yeah.
But this doesn't last long because we see that there's some bats in this cave. Because bats in caves. And these bats start flying around, and what's this? Oh no, they're turning into vampires. The 7 golden vampires, finally we have vampires that can turn into bats. And it's these 7 golden vampires, and it's a sneak attack.
I just, again, I was saying that Leland as a Van Helsing is really not very well trained. But old man Van Helsing isn't like, you know what? Just in case some of these bats might be vampires, maybe we should protect ourselves with some sort of holy symbols or whatever.
No. It takes him completely by surprise. He never saw this coming.
I guess in these movies, he has not gone up against bat-changing vampires. No, he hasn't.
We had the swarm of bats in one of them, but that's different.
And Van Helsing was not in that one.
That's true. Neither was Dracula. That was the one with neither one of them.
That was Brides of Dracula.
Yeah. He has fought bats, though.
Yes.
No, that wasn't Brides of Dracula. That was Kiss of the Vampire, because he is in Brides of Dracula.
But didn't we have a swarm of bats in that?
That's the one where bats attack him, but they're not.
Right.
It's not a vampire in bat form. It's just. I think it's the vampire controlling the bats, which is different.
Look, I'm gonna admit it.
Yeah.
They kind of blend together.
What do you mean? They're all so radically different. How can that happen? They all have such unique identities as films. Totally different styles. You can really. I don't know how that could ever happen to you.
No.
So anyway, another fucking fight ensues, and one of these golden vampires just gets punched in its heart and turns to dust. And so Ching Su is like, hit him in the hearts. No, I think it's actually it's Van Helsing. It's like the hearts.
Yes, he's like,
go for their hearts.
Go for the hearts. And the kung fu guys are like, I never thought of that. And then
he just immediately it's a punch to the heart. This one goes down. Van Helsing grabs a torch and he lights up one of these vampires. Another one gets killed somehow. I can't remember how. Maybe he just gets stabbed or something. And then the fight's over, and everybody's like, "Oh no, we got to turn back. This is too dangerous." But I think it's Ching Su's like, "What do you mean? We just took it down from 6 to 3, and it wasn't even that hard."
I know. It's like, has this been going on for centuries? The 7 golden vampires, and no one has. It's like, why was this so difficult?
Yeah.
I don't mean to be a dick here.
Yeah.
But why has it been so hard to take down the 7 golden vampires?
I don't know, but I do like that Leland is now even more turned on by it. He goes, that was some fighting you showed out there to the girl he likes. And she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. Did that repel you?" And he goes, "No, quite the opposite. I was very impressed." Swing.
He says he
did swing before Wayne's World. It was crazy. They must have gotten it from this.
He says this line. He says, "One moment you're I gotta remember it. One moment you're a porcelain kitten, and the next you're a fighting tigress."
I'll tell you.
I said that to the woman at Safeway that was ringing me up, and it didn't go over well.
You know, that's interesting. That's exactly how I got my gal, was saying that.
One moment you're a porcelain kitten, the next you're a fighting tigress. Oh well.
That's the two modes of any woman, right?
Yeah.
Porcelain kitten, fighting tigress.
God.
Wasn't that a kung fu movie too? Porcelain kitten, fighting tigress.
Yes. Ang Lee.
That was the Ang Lee one, right?
That's right.
Yeah, I think Chow Yun Fat was in that one. So yeah, they then decide to continue on their journey. And what luck, because the next day they find the grave of the farmer and his sword. Yeah. Because apparently they were also looking for his sword, which once again is vaguely like, does it have powers? No.
Who knows?
Really.
But
because these things go down so easily with their regular weapons.
Right, but I also remember his primary weapon was a fucking hoe.
I would have loved if it was the holy hoe, you know?
The holy hoe.
Yeah. Holy hoe!
That'd be the best thing. Be the best thing ever.
Yeah.
God.
To me, my holy hoe.
One moment you're a porcelain kitten, the next you're a holy hoe. Okay, I'll just stop right there.
And then she slaps him in the face, and that's the end
of
that relationship.
I'm sorry. It's 94 degrees in my apartment right now. Yeah. I'm about to pass out. I've got an excuse for everything.
So yeah, they're like, oh, what luck here? And they're going, well, this must be the town then, so this is where we're going to face the vampires. And you are going like, oh shit, the movie's over almost. Yeah. I looked at the thing and went, oh, there's about 18 minutes left. So yeah, there's just enough time to have some kind of final conflict. This thing just flew by.
It really does.
I was watching it last night going like, holy shit, it's almost over. Which means it's almost time for me to watch Law and Order once this is over. That's, say what you will about me, but I got to watch my Law and Order to calm down at the end of the night.
I'm just really happy you gave me permission to say what I will about you, because I will.
Yeah. Let it be known. I know.
As soon as this is over, all bets are off.
Even I'm like, this is a weird show to like wind down with. An SVU of all things, the sex crimes one is the one where I'm like,
Jesus.
They were taking on a baby snatching ring last night, and then I was watching.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It was rough stuff, man. Rough stuff. But so they immediately go, all right. And then they do one of my favorite things that can happen in an action movie. They prepare traps. They start digging. Like they start digging a trench. They start placing giant wooden stakes in the ground. And I'm like, oh yeah! All of a sudden, we're in Magnificent Seven, and we're getting the town ready for battle.
Yes,
I love it. I love this shit. I'm like, oh yeah. Now I'm on board. I clearly thought I was going to remember what the scene was. I just wrote down, romance continues to blossom. I have no idea what happens, though. I think there's some romantic moments here.
Maybe.
It doesn't matter.
I mean,
I in my notes care about as much about the romance as the makers of this film.
Until the end. Until a big thing that happens in the final fight, I don't remember anything progressing. I mean, they've partnered up.
Yeah.
The end.
And we see them getting ready for battle, and we also see the vampires going like, oh, we're going to get everybody in town. Oh, it's going to be bad.
Oh, my 5 brothers.
So they start rising more people. I mean, how many graves do they have to raise up this undead army?
Apparently a lot.
Because, yeah,
they come a-hopping.
And the big move to seal off the town, close the doors to it.
Yep.
Shut those doors, baby. Which I think are supposed to be metal, but seem like they weigh absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
But they're painted to look like they're made of metal.
You can get them at IKEA.
Yeah. They're currently separating my bedroom from my living room right now. But so,
and you also dug a pit and put spikes in it.
Well, you've got to, because what if vampires show up? Actually, the pit and the spikes are two separate things, because the pit we'll find out is filled with gas or something, or oil or something, because they're going to light it up and turn it into a fiery moat. Fuck yeah, I'm on board with that. But meanwhile, we start with, in classic fashion, when they're sieging the city, we just send in one of the golden vampires first. And Ching Su is just like, well, I got this guy, and he leaps over the wall of the place and just fucks this dude up.
Yeah.
Because these vampires are so weak. These are the easiest vampires to fight.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
I mean, again, one of the only faults, one of the only faults, Jesus, there are many faults with this, but when you're going to do a combo of a martial arts and vampire movie, the fact of you're making these vampires essentially just other martial artists really bugged me. I was like, come on, do they have powers? We did see them turn into bats, but they don't do that in combat. They just swing their swords around like any other martial artist would. I'm like, maybe show that you have superhuman strength. Maybe pick a guy up and throw him over the wall or something. Nope. They're just martial artists wearing cool golden masks, and that's disappointing. I'm like, well, what makes you special, Golden Vampire? He said.
I don't know. Because then a bunch of the undead army on horseback come riding into this, and it's another fucking fight scene. And it's cool, but it's just like not even second half of the whole we have the half hour of setup, and then it's just basically getting from fight to fight for the last 2/3 of the film.
Yeah.
And that's it. Then Helsing is swinging away with his signature torch.
Well, that's not a signature until this movie, but
I know.
It's weird.
So I'm saying, though, it becomes his trademark weapon in this film.
Yeah. And what interests me is there's no stunt double for him, and he's an older gentleman, still fit.
Yeah.
But when they cut to a scene of like one of the martial arts guys in the foreground taking care of an undead or a golden vampire, it's interesting because you will see Peter Cushing, the trooper that he is, in the background flailing this torch around, not sleepily, not like, I have to do this. No. He's giving it his all. Like he's really fighting the undead.
I love watching Cushing fight in these movies. He is great. Even in these later ones, he's still fucking at it, man. And he gets some of these things. He kills a few of these vampires and undead minions. His son's a fucking moron, though, doing absolutely nothing.
His son is still shooting a gun. I'm like,
bang,
stop
bang.
it, man.
Bang, bang, bang. Your dad is taking out 8 with a torch. Your gun does not. Pick up another torch. What are you doing? And meanwhile, he's also lit this moat of fire, which is awesome. So,
are we at the part where blonde nothing lady gets bitten?
We're almost there. We start to lose some of these people. We lose the sword twins, the guy who's got the mace. He dies.
They die together, the twins.
They do. They go down together, of course.
It's sweet. It's kind of sweet. One of them gets his hand full on chopped off.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. I like that.
And the hand is literally laying on the ground next to his head. Mm-hmm. Kind of funny. He's like, oh, yeah, that's my hand right there. Cool.
Yeah. And so eventually it does. Yes, Vanessa gets bitten, and then they proceed to. The only term I can use is gang stake the vampire that gets her, because like everybody surrounds him and impales this vampire. Mm-hmm. And then that's where Jing-Su turns to her, and she's a full-on vampire instantly.
It's kind of crazy. Like, she gets bitten, then, they take care of Golden Vampire guy. Yeah. And then handsome lead martial arts guy who has been our fighting hero, he's like, oh, she's all right. And then she's like, hey.
You know what would have been so much more affecting if she didn't turn into a vampire, but they both knew that she had to be killed. And it's like, you have to. And it's like, I can't. I love you. I mean, that's been done a million times in vampire movies, but it would have been something. Instead, this is just weird.
Instead, it's like
it's almost like, it's once again, it's fitting with the whole pace of the movie, where it's like, she's a vampire, we got to stake her. Let's go. Yep. Let's go. And then she bites him.
She bares her fangs, and he throws her backward onto a pike.
Well, she does bite him, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, she does.
She bites him, throws her back onto the pike, and she gets impaled, and it's like, ah.
And then
her vampire wounds go away as she dies.
Yeah, and then
that's,
he's like,
I think, a new one.
I have to be with her and die as well.
And so he just keeps
embraces
impaling
her.
Yeah. Once again, that would be more affecting if there was any emotion to this.
Yeah, if you cared about them at all.
Any real depth to this relationship, basically any character work done in this movie whatsoever.
You ask,
because it's a well-done scene in isolation.
No, it is. Yeah, in isolation.
I liked it, but I also thought, holy shit, I didn't expect this guy to die. He seemed like he was going to be the main guy. That was a surprise.
Mm-hmm.
So that leaves us only with the sister left. The sister
is the last one.
Mikue.
Mique with Leland and our man Van Helsing, who now is going to confront.
Well, because of course Mique is instantly taken by the vampires back to the temple.
Yeah.
Leland gets on his horse and chases after. They chain her up in the temple in front of the boiling blood cauldron. Blood Cauldron, by the way, was the name of my death metal band back in high school.
I gotta say, I liked your first album, but you guys went totally commercial in the second.
We did.
Sucked.
We lost the edge, man, and that's why we never got it back. We are Blood Cauldron! Yeah.
Yeah, you started strong.
Yeah, I know.
And then you sucked. But all your cookie monstering vocals, I wasn't a big fan.
Yeah. It was so weird, too, because I would always try to work in, me want cookie! Me want cookie!
You took it so literally. I was surprised.
Cookie, num num.
Are you going to mention Satan at any point, or should I just stop listening?
No, it's mostly cookie-based songs.
Okay, thank you. Goodbye.
Snickerdoodles are delicious! That's the kind of death metal I could get behind.
By the way, they are.
They really are. I do love a snickerdoodle.
Oh God!
I could go for one right now. There are very few cookies I reject, though. To be fair,
I love raisins, but not in my cookies. So keep those out. If you put nuts in them, I'm gone. I'm literally out of the door. Don't want no nuts.
I agree about the nuts, and I don't have anything against nuts on their own or in other things, but they do damage to the cookie.
Don't want them in
I'm also not nuts about nuts in a cake.
I agree with you there.
Because
I want nuts as nuts.
It's a texture thing. It's like I don't mind the nuts on the back of the cake. Maybe like if you want to put some chopped nuts on the back of a carrot cake or something, I'm fine with that. But in the cake, go to hell.
You heard it here first.
Yeah,
he's taking a hard stance.
We're talking about the serious issues on this show.
We really are. There's going to be some pushback on that one, John. I guarantee you.
We're gonna get letters. So yeah, they chain her up. Leland busts in. He fights this vampire. But should we point out, does he kill this vampire? No, he does not. He tussles with the vampire, and then it's Van Helsing that comes in and actually stakes the son of a bitch.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy not only gets staked, he then falls into the boiling pot of blood.
It's pretty good.
Bad, I guess. We don't really know what the point of the pot ever was, but I do like watching this guy get boiled.
That's the whole point, is just for the cool effect.
And then the smoke clears and we just see his bones left in the thing.
Yeah.
This guy got staked and boiled.
One of the things I read about this movie, they pointed out, and it's true, I was thinking the same thing all the way through. This is definitely the most bodies decaying kill of any vampire movie we've seen yet.
Unquestionably.
Almost every vampire that is killed or living dead in this movie, we're going to spend some time watching them decay, turn into crumble.
They really went for that.
They really did. They were on board with that shit.
Yeah. So they then of course Ka or Dracula shows up and he's like, "Oh, Van Helsing." And I do like the Van Helsing's like, "I fucking knew it, man. Dracula, you had to be behind this. This reeked of a Dracula plan."
Yeah.
And he goes, "But you should have the courage to face me as yourself, man."
Oof.
And so, and then we get more smoke effects as he turns back into Dracula, and it's like,
that's into terrible actor.
That's right, baby. It's me, Dracula. And then I thought, oh, it is on now. It is on. And unfortunately, it's not really on because it's like one grapple and then Van Helsing stakes him.
It is literally like Dracula just goes, "Away with you," tosses Van Helsing, who lands conveniently. He's like, his hand goes, "Oh, what is that? Something vaguely steak-like?" Pulls it up, boom, right into Dracula. Done.
Yeah.
And then Dracula decays for about 5 minutes.
Yeah. Oh, he decays for a long time. It's a good. I mean, they're pretty good-looking decays in this movie in comparison to previous ones. You really watch this guy, burn up.
Yeah.
And then the movie's just over.
Yeah.
If you thought there was some kind of denouement or final scene with
Leland and Mique,
Nope.
Yeah, nope.
No. Van Helsing's like, Van Helsing doesn't even say anything. He's just like,
nope,
that's it. And then it goes, The Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires. No, there's not a song, but the title comes up.
You do see Peter Cushing look out of the camera and just go, thank God.
Yeah.
Because he knew his work was over as far as Van Helsing.
All right, do we start shooting Shatter tomorrow? Great.
They were probably shooting them side by side.
Yeah. All right, well, I'm done on this picture. I have a couple more days left on Shatter.
Yeah.
And then, by the way, check out Shatter. Yeah, I like it.
I mean, it's a soft recommend for me, too. It's not a good movie, but it's, as I said before, I think it is a better amalgam of the two worlds of the martial arts and the British film.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
not
modern
it's
day.
Not horror. It's not,
No, it's modern day. It's got a hitman. It's
got Stuart Whitman, who's good.
Stuart Whitman is very haggard and good.
Well, yeah.
It's good.
Mr. Shatter isn't crush-proof, but cross him and he'll put you in a box.
Gotta say, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Gotta
Come
say.
on. The breakthrough movie that mixes martial arts with mob-style violence. They were really selling like...
And again, Cushing's great in it. He's not the main. He doesn't have to carry it. He's just good when he shows up.
Well, he's always good, man. He was never bad in anything. He was in a lot of bad stuff, but he was never bad.
That is the truth.
Yeah. It's good stuff.
But also, we can't say enough about don't miss his finest performance in Top Secret. So make sure
he's wonderful in Top Secret.
He's great.
What do you think is his finest performance as we wrap this up?
That is very tough. Oh, God.
I mean, I do love him as Sherlock Holmes. I really do love him as Sherlock Holmes.
And Sherlock Holmes is great.
Yeah, particularly the Hammer Hound of the Baskervilles I love.
Weirdly, though...
I mean, he is great in Star Wars.
He's great in Star Wars. I got to give the edge to any of the performances where he's farthest from himself. So Sherlock is not. I mean, because he's a brilliant man.
He was born to play Sherlock. He looks like Sherlock. I mean,
I got to throw it to one of the Frankensteins because playing
that first one is
brilliant.
Great.
Yes, a brilliant and sociopathic person who just doesn't give a shit about humanity.
We flipped over his performance in that. He was wonderful
I gotta give that to.
Was that?
And he's great as Moff Tarkin.
Yeah, he's great as Moff Tarkin. And that's another one where he's just a cold bastard.
He's just a cold bastard, a bureaucrat of the Empire. It's awesome.
And he rules in those scenes with Carrie Fisher. And he's the only person who can rein in Vader.
I know.
Oh, it's so good. Grand Moff Tarkin, a very underappreciated. I mean, people certainly know him. I still,
to this day, will quote. I'll just, for no reasons, like charming to the last.
Oh, it's a perfect. It's
like someone says something to me, I just go charming to the last.
It's so good. I will say I don't have many Star Wars novels, but one of the only ones I do currently have in my apartment is the Tarkin origin story. Exactly, because I love that character. I'd
be interested in reading an origin story.
It's really good. Yeah, where did that guy come from?
I don't know.
I mean,
I enjoyed the prequel novel "Last Days of Krypton" by Kevin J. Anderson.
Yeah,
it's not great, but I enjoyed it because it was all about like Superman's grandparents. We're not gonna care what that's about.
Could you imagine Peter Cushing on Krypton?
Oh my God!
Make him part of the Kryptonian Science Council. Come on.
Jesus Christ!
Come on, judging Zod as one of the heads judging Zod. Guilty. Yes. If you didn't hear me, I said guilty.
I just want to see that guy in one of those reflective house dresses.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes. I mean,
with a weird black emblem on it.
I would have loved to have seen Peter Cushing in a superhero movie. Just in general, like.
I would love to see Peter Cushing in movies that deserved him because here's the one thing I'll say about his entire career.
Yeah.
His entire career.
Yeah.
He was so good. Yes. He deserved better roles in better films. He just did.
Yeah.
It would have been amazing if he had been in some high profile piece.
It's so many of my favorite actors that's the case though, because we've talked about Vincent Price. Christopher Lee got more of that
Vincent
than
Price. I mean, Vincent Price was in Laura. No, Rebecca.
Rebecca.
No, it is Laura.
It's Laura.
Yeah, it's Laura. Sorry,
yeah.
the one name movies jarring me. But I mean, he did a few things that did.
He did, but he was always to the side
acclaimed.
in them. And then pretty quickly fell into schlock. But he was always, much like Peter Cushing, great in the schlock.
I do think
Karloff,
that weirdly, perhaps it's the big fish in a little pond thing. To be an actor of that stature in genre films, not saying that they're lesser films, but in genre films, obviously they walk away with it. Obviously they become wow, you made everything about this better. Whereas if Peter Cushing had been in films with Anthony Hopkins and, just calling all these great names, and then he would have been equally good, but maybe would not have shown
he wouldn't be the icon. He's an icon.
No.
And also, I mean, certainly somebody more modern who has certainly been in stuff but never really got the big one, Bruce Campbell, who's an icon of horror and always seemed poised to be a leading man, but never... I
don't know if I agree.
Oh, no.
And I love Bruce Campbell. My love for him is huge.
Yeah.
But I think there's something in his personality, his look, even when he's not going overboard. It's why he fits things like Briscoe County, which he's not going overboard. It's just
I would say that's one of the things that was a more legitimate thing for him.
Yeah, it was a leading part where he didn't have to.
Network
there was
TV
some goofiness.
There was goofiness to it, but it was definitely like he was a classical Western hero in that.
Yeah, but
he was up for Batman. He was up for the Phantom. He was supposed to be Darkman.
Of course. God.
Almost every Sam Raimi movie was supposed to be Bruce Campbell, and the studio went, nah, we need a real.
I think there is something
here
about him that does come off as 3 degrees left of what you would expect a leading man to be, which is his strength.
Well, it makes him he's more interesting than a lot of legitimate leading men.
It's true, but I think that the way you look has a lot to do with it, because I often say the sad thing about a Clooney and a sad thing about a Brad Pitt is those guys are character actors who sadly, because of their looks, were forced to be uninteresting lead actors.
I think Brad Pitt now is doing some of the best stuff in his career as an older actor.
Yeah, because
he's so good in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and that's a more character-y part, even though he's still sort of a leading man in it.
The best things Clooney ever did were always for the Coens, because they were going to allow him.
Weird. And one of my favorite Brad Pitt performances is in Burn After Reading, because he's super weird.
Oh my God, it's great.
He's wonderful in that. The Coen brothers have such an ability to go, here's what makes this guy strange.
Yeah, and also it's just to go against type. It's like, we know what your strengths are.
The fact
Hollywood won't let you.
The fact that Clooney's done 4 or 5 movies with them shows he likes doing that.
Oh my God,
I know, because he doesn't seem like a guy who takes himself too seriously.
Oh brother, where art thou?
Amazing.
That's a performance for the age.
Yeah, he's great in Hail Caesar. In a
Bonafide.
Yeah.
Yes, Hail Caesar, he's great. I'm not a huge fan of the movie, but he's great.
I really like Hail Caesar.
I love moments. Look at us going totally off topic.
Yep. Talking about the Coen brothers now. No, so as we wrap up,
that would be a great podcast.
I would love to
be
talk
over
about that
fairly quickly.
So as we wrap up Hammer, what were the highlights? What were the highs and lows of Hammer? I think we agree on the worst Hammer movie. Which is Lust for a Vampire.
That
was the worst one we watched, and we watched some bad ones, but Lust for a Vampire was one where we both were like, "This thing stinks."
Strange love.
Yeah, it just doesn't work on any level.
No, not even just sort of on a campy level. Not even on a boobs level. No, I mean, that's sad.
The other 2 Karnstein movies have their high points in them.
Yeah.
I really actually do kind of legitimately like Twins of Evil for its, like, B-movie, almost the grindhouse tendencies.
That say it's the best of the 3.
It's the most fun of the 3 by far. Like, the first one is trying to almost be a prestige picture. So I think we've definitely nailed the low point of the Hammer oeuvre.
Yeah.
What do we think the best one of these was? I mean, I have a lot of affinity for Captain Kronos, but I'm not going to really say that's the best one. As much as I love it, I think
I really enjoyed it, and its concept is so strong, and I wish there had been more done with it.
Yeah. That's the biggest thing. I think it's the biggest, like, oh, if only they had made more of those.
Man, I hate to keep throwing things just like with Universal back toward the beginning, but
you know what? I'm right here with you. If you're going where I think you're going with this.
Well, I enjoy both the first Dracula and the first Frankenstein.
Right there with you. I think those are the two best ones.
Well, they're starting strong, and they are basically laying claim and saying, this ain't your daddy's Frankenstein, this ain't your daddy's Dracula, and so they have a different tack. They announce themselves as being Hammer right off the bat, and it's a refreshing change from Universal. Sadly, they didn't quite know how to keep the steam going as far as innovation, because it did become repetitive. And even when they had weird ideas like Frankenstein Created Woman, where it's like, this is about transferring souls, and we have this interesting take where it's a male soul in a female body. You're like, well, even with an interesting idea, the script isn't good, and it just...
No, exactly. I do think that, was it Curse of Frankenstein and Horror of Dracula they're the two I come back to the most of these, certainly, because I think they are because everybody's excited to be there. They're brand new.
Yep, they start really strong.
And it's interesting to see how this series, the Hammer has the same sort of arc and trajectory as Universal in a lot of ways.
I think that's going to be true of it, and now that we are officially breaking away from
unshackled of a specific studio, because we should say next season on the show, season 3, is the 1970s in general, and that will be the way we continue doing this going forward. So we'll do the 80s, then the 90s, and
the thing that will be very refreshing about that, even though we will end up doing a Frankenstein and then another Frankenstein, or a vampire and then another vampire,
because we are still covering the same
studio.
Yeah,
right.
So if anything, we're going to get more first takes on Dracula and Frankenstein and werewolves.
The flavors will be very different. Yeah. And that I do look forward to. And it was interesting doing Universal and Hammer.
The other thing
because you do see how they change.
I was going to say, the other thing you'll see is the popularity of certain monsters. Like looking ahead, the 70s doesn't have a lot of werewolf movies. The 80s is lousy with them, but not so many Frankenstein type movies,
I honestly think the werewolf boom was one of those weird synchronicities, but I think it also goes hand in hand with makeup technique advances.
Oh God, yeah. Well, once the double whammy of American Werewolf in London and The Howling coming out the same year, people were werewolf crazy at that point.
Yeah. Well, people crying about, for instance, the rise of the superhero film, I just think it's exactly the same thing. The reason the genre kicked in is not just because, hey, nerds are in power. It's because we finally have the technological advances to do amazing science fiction films.
It's something I've pointed out many times, which is they were always trying to make superhero movies.
Yes.
There's no decade where they weren't doing something with superheroes.
Right, but they finally could
always
do them
knew
justice.
There was something there,
and finally the people in power did allow the nerds to take them seriously.
Well, and they learned lessons, right? Not only does the technology come, but also it seems like when we hew closer to the comics, they do better.
Weirdly, that has an effect.
These were successful for a reason, somehow. I don't understand.
But for us, meeting the monsters, we're about to meet so many different varieties of Dracula,
it's
Frankenstein's monster.
I think the hit to miss ratio may be the same, if not worse, but the excitement level of each movie, because it's a brand new thing each time. It's not like, it's another Hammer Dracula
in this
batch. Although, interestingly, we are starting off with the first episode of season 3 is Christopher Lee playing Dracula.
I know. But not for Hammer.
Not for Hammer. This is Jess Franco's Dracula will be our first
Count Dracula.
Jess Franco's Count Dracula.
It is the one where and Christopher Lee was very excited because this would hew closely to the original novel,
and especially he's got a big old mustache in it.
He got a big old mustache, just like he should. But it's an interesting take.
You know what's interesting? It's because he should. You're right. He should, based on the novel. Looks wrong to me from the pop culture depiction of Dracula that I've known, though. You're like, that's wrong. Whether or not he had the mustache described in the books, he is almost never played on screen with one, so it looks wrong.
Weirdly, he looks great to me.
Oh, he just looks wrong to me. It just looks
wrong.
The
look in this looks right. The movie itself, we'll talk about it. Yeah. We'll talk about it next week because it doesn't really succeed.
Yeah.
But it's an admirable shot at the material.
I'm excited.
And it's actually pretty restrained for a Jess Franco film. So.
Yeah. I don't know if this is the only... I think we might be covering another Jess Franco movie at some point, too. We'll get a few different takes on The Count. What we'll be getting a lot of is the work of Mr. Dan Curtis, though.
Yeah, the 70s are Curtis
Dan
heavy.
Curtis. And we'll be
at least one of them
different takes on the character of Count Dracula, because we'll get Lee's more novel, accurate interpretation. We'll also get Mr. Jack Palance playing the character. And we'll also get
Louis Jourdan
and Frank Langella.
I know.
So
70s. Much Dracula.
So, a lot of Dracula, a lot of
and
Frankenstein.
Also, one of my favorite vampire things of any, even though it's not Dracula, is in this bunch. One of my favorite films of all time.
Two of mine, and both are TV things. We not only have The Night Stalker, but we also have Salem's Lot, which I'm a huge fan of.
Lot!
And that's a big thing we'll be changing up in the 70s. Particularly in the 70s, a lot of TV movies and miniseries.
I grew up in that era, and I will say it was pretty amazing
because we would
TV
be really,
movies were powerful at the time.
Because if we didn't, we talked about whether or not to include TV, and if we didn't, we would have way less movies to cover because much of the monster stuff was being done on TV at this time. So we are letting in TV movies and limited miniseries. We don't have any like 6-part things. Basically, still things we can watch in kind of one go. I mean, Salem's Lot altogether is like a little over 3 hours. So like that's totally watchable. What we didn't want to do was a TV series or like an 8-part thing, or we're not doing anything like that.
I will let folks know, because I get these emails all the time, we will not be doing the Dracula segments of the show Cliffhangers.
No, we talked about it, but I think that's just too much. That almost needs to be its own thing if we were to talk about that. And we have talked about going forward.
Join us for Cliffhangers Minute, where we go minute by minute through the 1970s TV
We will be doing House of Dark Shadows, though.
I know, I do love that.
Yeah.
Because, and I think it's totally valid, Dark Shadows, we couldn't do the width and breadth of that.
You and I both have a lot of affection for Dark Shadows.
Daily soap opera.
Yeah.
But the fact was, it was such a cultural phenomenon, it did spin off into 2 feature films.
Yeah.
One of which we'll be doing.
Yes.
The first one, House of Dark Shadows.
Which kind of essentially goes over the story of the show.
Yeah. Barnabas Collins, all day, all night. Yeah. That's all you need.
So we're excited because it's a new thing. We're always excited to start a new thing. And I think because we'll always kind of be starting a new thing, there's really not a lot of franchise stuff. There's only a couple of like 2 movie things in the 70s.
Yeah,
like Blackula and Count Yorgi.
Yorgi. Count Yorgi.
Sorry.
Hello, I'm Count Yorgi. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Count Yorga.
Count Yorga.
That's what I meant. Yes, Count Yorgi.
Yeah, there's 2 sequels, and there's Blackula and Scream, Blackula, Scream.
Ooh,
We're giving you kind of a
prequel.
A prequel of things that we'll be covering.
The 80s is a shit ton of sequels.
Yeah.
You don't even know how many Howling movies there are.
And I gotta say, I'm not looking forward.
I love that first Howling, but from there
the first one's absolutely great.
The second one does have Christopher Lee, but it is atrocious, and I don't know that I've seen the ones past.
My sister's a werewolf.
Yeah,
I don't think I've ever. Is that the Marsupials? I've seen that one.
Maybe I saw that one, but there's no way I've seen all of them. Nope. So we shall talk about the 70s. That's down the line. We're not there yet, but we will talk some 70s when season 3 starts. On Campbell and Jones Meet the Monsters. Thank you for taking the ride through Hammer with us, though. And we head to the 70s in general next week on the show. But that is going to do it for this week's episode of Campbell and Jones Meet the Monsters. I'm John Campbell.
I'm Brendan Jones.
And remember, there are such things as monsters.
Everybody was kung fu fighting. Those mothers were fast as lightning.